Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of A Few Short Minutes of the Pod. Today, you guys, we have my friend Ardyth. And Ardyth and I know each other because we were in the same coaching program. And so we met each other and we've actually put on a couple of workshops together. And so I wanted to have Ardyth on today to talk about motherhood and neurodiversity. But let me give you a little information about Ardyth first. So Ardyth is an only child and is a married mom of two young sons. She's an experienced teacher and a master of education and a certified health and life coach, like I was saying. And as a coach, she has chosen to support moms with ADHD who are raising busy, high energy, sensitive, curious, intelligent, and imaginative kids with ADHD. She knows what it's like as she lives with it every day, personally as a woman and a mom, and it certainly keeps her on her toes and is never boring. She loves to laugh, smile, sing, dance, stay active, ask questions, and she is a lifelong learner. Currently, she's studying part-time to become a counselor while working at as an elementary school substitute teacher, doing the mom stuff, of course, being a partner and carrying the overall mental load. She's recently become an international Toastmasters member in her area. That's super exciting. And she will continue to sing with her local choir as music is part of her overall well-being, physically, mentally, and emotionally. Girl, I absolutely agree. I don't think I knew that about you. I'm a huge choir nerd. I was a choir nerd like through college. Yeah. Like the whole show choir, madrigals, beauty shop. I mean, you name it, all district. I did it all. So that's so much fun. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I didn't know that about you. So motherhood and neurodiversity. Oh my gosh, Ardyth. So you were talking before I started recording about your revelation about a year ago after reading starting, even not even finishing, but starting Dr. Gabor Mate's book. And if you guys don't know who he is, go check him out. He will blow your mind. You read it. Here we go. Here it is. It's what was the name of the book, Ardyth? Forget it. It's done. What was the name of the book, Ardyth?
The book is called Scattered Minds.
Of course it is. And of course I forget. So, y'all, here it is in all of its glory. Talk about that revelation because I found it fascinating.
Well, at the time, I knew I had a son that had been diagnosed with hyperactive ADHD. So I wanted to find out as much as possible about his brain to be able to help him out cognitively, socially, emotionally. And within 5 minutes, Stacy, with 5 minutes of starting that book, I was like, holy, no wonder I have struggled with being able to remember spoken instructions, directions on how to get to places. Like, thank goodness GPSs exist now, because I have known, based on the fact that I'm a teacher, that I am a visual learner, but I had no idea the level of visual learning connected to neurodiverse individuals. And so it has just snowballed from there. I now know I have inattentive ADHD. I went through the same 5 hours of testing with an educational psychologist that I took my son to go through privately. And now I have like this, what I've experienced other mothers sharing with me who have raised kids all the way into adulthood, that it's like the golden ticket to be able to go through schooling and to be able to say confidently and advocate for oneself that, yes, academically, I need support with this area based on what I know of how my brain learns. And so, yeah, like it's just, I'm still kind of floored by the level of intuition I felt from reading 5 minutes into that book. I also, because I love my brain to be busy and learning when I'm doing mundane things like emptying the dishwasher and doing the dishes, and sometimes even motivating myself to start cooking. Even though I am a foodie and I do love cooking, um, I started listening to that book. So that book, those of you that are watching this, it is on Audible. And so if you don't have the time to sit down and read it, being able to hear Dr. Gabor's gentle voice about what this book is about, it's, yeah, you can just learn so many. And you might learn something about yourself that will enable you to experience how your why your brain works the way that it does, and then you may find that very empowering, because many of us with ADHD are very hard on ourselves, and we might not know why.
Extremely, extremely. So it sounds like your experience was kind of like my experience in like when I recently was diagnosed, like, I don't know,
Okay.
6 9 months ago, like really like the summer recently.
Well,
um
that's just like
and
me.
yeah, but it's validating, isn't it?
Oh,
There is a
so
validation that comes with, and I know people are like, oh, it's just a label, blah, blah, blah. No, it's not. It's not just a label. It validates my whole existence and experience through life of like why my parents still to this day, I'm 47, they razz me about not being able to tell north, south, east, and west from each other. I have terrible, terrible issues with cardinal directions. And unless you
mm,
tell me, go to this, turn left on this street, there'll be a gas station, it's right past that, I can't do it. If somebody says it's on the southwest corner of, Las Vegas Boulevard North, I look at them like they have three heads. It's always been like that. And my dad being a fighter pilot, like now that's the family joke of like, my dad's a fighter pilot, yet his daughter cannot even, no sense of direction. And it was so validating for me getting that inattentive ADHD label, diagnosis, whatever, because it's like, oh, okay, so I'm not an idiot, is what you're saying. It's my brain works differently. That I like. And it's just so empowering knowing that, like, oh, okay, I'm not a dumbass. I'm not an idiot. Things just work differently for me. And yeah, it sounds like you have the same experience. What did you, when the diagnosis came, what did you think?
at first it was really vulnerable. It was really vulnerable because I understood why for so long I thought I had a learning disability. And now in Canada, because I'm from Ontario, Canada, um, ADHD is considered a disability. So when I looked at the report and I listened to what the educational psychologist was telling me about after going through the testing, it was affirming to know why I intuitively thought I might have a learning disability, because she said, based on the way that your brain learns, no wonder you thought that. Like, I was always somebody who really struggled with writing essays, especially because essays tend to be very linear. And the more I've connected with individuals who are neurodiverse, they have shown me that um, we are nonlinear thinkers. And that's why in university, because I did a degree in public relations, and I had courses on news writing. So, like, knowing the who, what, where, when, why, how, very structured, and then took a feature writing course. And it was the feature writing course that I absolutely thrived in, because it allowed me to be abstract. It allowed my creativity to just, I would say, just expand, and it enabled me to connect with people in ways that I wouldn't necessarily be able to connect with the news writing side. So so many things. It's just like you talk about, you learn so much about yourself. It's so validating. You're able to connect so many dots. And when,
So many dots.
yeah, and when I went and going back to high school and struggling with writing essays, I took a research methods course when I did my master's of education, and I was sitting in this lecture, and the professor, very early on, was a female professor. She said, "Did you know that the way that a excuse me, an essay is formed actually comes from a male brain?" Now, I mean, I didn't know much about ADHD at the time. I remember connecting with somebody who did, and she had actually had to advocate for herself that she did have ADHD. And anyways, I just remember having like a really aha moment when the professor said that, because it was like she was giving me permission to allow myself to be kinder to why I had struggled so long writing essays. And I actually thought about switching over from the Master's of Education program into a Master's of Arts so that I could then continue to do my PhD. And I believe if I had have known that I had ADHD at the time, I would have been able to have used that to advocate for myself of why I needed the support I needed to be able to write essays in a way where I continued along the pathway that was necessary, because the longest paper I have ever written is 26 pages. And it is very challenging to be able to continue to focus on one topic for that long if your brain has a tendency to go, but I want to focus on this, and I want to focus on this, and I want to focus on
Yeah.
this, and I want to focus on this. So, yeah, now as a mom, I am so happy that I have a son who has the paperwork from the educational psychologist, which has enabled him to have the individual education plan. I'm so happy and grateful that I have connected with mothers who have told me that that has been a golden ticket for their sons to be able to thrive academically and to be able to say, legally, this document is what has to be followed. If it's not being followed, it's sometimes very hard for mothers to be able to stand up and advocate for their kids without feeling like they're being overbearing, like they're being nagging, like they're, like all those words that tend to be associated with women and mothers for standing
And
up
taking
and,
up space.
yeah, being too much, right? And yeah, so
Ooh, that just triggered me. How do you remember, maybe this isn't your experience, but my experience, I look back on my life now and see all of the times that I was told, "Oh, you're laughing too loud. Oh, don't be so loud. Oh, you're too much. Chill out." It was my brain. It's my neurodiversity. It's a beautiful thing to have. But I can look back of all those times that people were like, "Whoa, you're intense. You're a lot." And of course I
mm,
took it in, right? Of course I took it in, and I shrunk and I shrunk and I shrunk, because nobody wants to be told that. Had I known that it was this way my brain works, maybe I would have told him to, jump in a lake a lot sooner than in my mid 40s. But here we are. So better late than never. But was that your experience too? Do you look back and go, oh, okay, that makes sense?
Well, thank you for asking that question, because now that you worded it in such a way, I do remember being 8 years old and being told that I bragged a lot. And I
Interesting.
think what was happening is I was connecting. I was connecting what they were saying to try and create validation and connection. And then I remember being in university and someone saying to me, every time I say something, it's like you have to connect it back to yourself
Yes.
somehow. And it's not that I was meaning to make myself look arrogant. By no means was that what I was trying to do. I was just trying to find a way to connect, to create conversation.
I was trying to relate. Yeah. How many times I've been told that, oh, that sounds like bragging, or gosh, you've done a lot of stuff in your life. Like it was the subversive, you're a one upper type thing. And I've never tried to one up somebody, but I do try to connect of like, oh, I know what that feels like because I have a story too. And then blah, 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 blah. But it's
Yeah.
literally just trying to connect and build that bridge and build that relationship. It isn't about bragging. It isn't about one upping. So yeah, I get that too. Thank you so much for sharing that because
Yeah.
yes, yeah,
You're,
absolutely.
you're
Um,
so welcome.
has your relationship deepened in some aspect now that both you and your son have this diagnosis that you can be like, oh, bro, yeah, what's going on? Talk about that.
100%. Um, I went through a time where I wanted my son to recognize that, yes, his brain works differently. And I do believe that we all we all learn differently, but there seems to be certain commonalities with individuals with ADHD. And so I had a sweatshirt made for him that says, I have a beautiful brain. And I ran a fundraiser to raise money for a local organization to help out parents that were going to this organization to receive support for their neurodivergent child, or
Very
neurodiverse
cool.
children. Thank you. And because I have two sons, I made a point of having a sweatshirt made for my other son too. So they both have sweatshirts that they still wear to this day, and they each say, I have a beautiful brain. And I have a sweatshirt that says, my child has a beautiful brain. I have mugs that say, my child has a beautiful brain. And it has sparked conversations where we talk about how our brains work. And there are times where he has, like, I remember this one time we were on vacation and he was struggling. And I said, what's going on, sweetheart? And he said, I'm having problems. I'm wanting to think, and I'm having problems being able to think. And then I learned that with how his brain worked until I will admit he's on medication. When until his medication kicked in, he would be struggling to grasp thoughts and pull them back so
Wow.
that he could enjoy thinking about them. I believe over time he's going to be a deep thinker like me and like so many neurodiverse individuals who live in a very deep world internally. And I I said, oh, like I could connect with him because I can remember being in like grade 5 and lying down on my living room couch in my family's home and looking at reading a book and having to read the pages over and over and over again because my mind kept wandering off. Something would I don't know if the word is trigger, but something, one word would catch my attention and then it would connect to some brain stem somewhere, or brain cell, or what are they called, neurons or whatever,
Yeah.
brain branches, and then and when I would be in this like way off world that would have nothing to do with what I needed to really focus on. And so then I'd have to wake up and have to go, oh, I got to read that again. And then I remember my mom taking me to some organization that specialized in testing kids on their reading, and then having these glasses that had certain, like, I think they were had a blue lens in them, and this is supposed to help me to read better. And
Oh
I
yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah,
I
it's a
remember.
brain training. There's a word,
Okay.
there's a name for it. I know of it because I have friends that it helped, but it's some sort of, yeah, it's some sort of training for your brain to rewire it. So yeah, I've heard of it. I just can't remember what it's called. But yeah,
Maybe we'll figure it out afterwards.
yeah, I'd ask her, but it's the middle of the night because she lives in Switzerland. So I'll ask her and get back to you.
Sounds good.
Calling
Sounds
her
good.
right now will probably not get the result that I want, considered it's almost 1 a.m. there. So no, let's not do that. But yes, she told me that her daughter did the same thing and it changed her life. So I know it works. Did it help you or not so much?
I think it did. I think it did. I don't remember. I don't remember that enough, but I just know that I remember struggling to read, and then um like I got through. I was able to get through high school. I was able, obviously. But I just know that as a mother now, when I see that my child or my children are struggling with reading, I have a lot of empathy for them for that. And so, in terms of connecting with my son in his struggles with reading, I can say to him, "You're not alone here. You know, this is very common for individuals with ADHD, and because I'm a teacher and I see kids who have been diagnosed with ADHD, and they'll tell me that they struggle with reading, and then if they're older and I'm noticing that they're connecting with books that my son is currently attracted to, like the Dogman books, the graphic novels, it makes complete
Mm-hmm.
sense to me because of what I have
Visual.
learned about the visual learning. And so, yeah, I'm I do believe that it really has created a deeper connection with my son and I.
I think that's amazing. Isn't it funny how we thought we escaped? Isn't it? I amuse myself. I'm like, both kids are ADHD. My mother was ADHD. My youngest brother was ADHD. How did I think I escaped? I didn't escape. I genuinely thought like I escaped. And not that it's a bad thing, friends. I'm just saying I didn't think I was affected. And then as perimenopause came closer and closer, my symptoms got unmanageable. And so that's when I went to the doctor and I said, I think I'm actually ADHD. And I just, it's just so funny because I thought I escaped, but then after, speaking to him and doing the test, and I didn't do the 5-hour test, I did the short test, but
Okay.
he was like, yeah, pretty sure. And it's like, oh, okay, then that just makes so much sense now. Me flitting from hobby to hobby to hobby, having like a million hobbies not finished, never completed. I do, the same thing with jobs. Once something gets boring and I can do it inside out, forget it. I'm gone. There's no dopamine there anymore. I didn't know that that's what was happening, but now looking back, I'm like, ah, yeah, yeah. So when I got my diagnosis, and I tell the kids, because one, I've got an inattentive one and I have a hyperactive one. Of course I do. Can't have two of the same. Because, you know, and I was like, oh, you guys, here it is. And they're like, okay. And it has, now I can speak to them in a different way. So I can help them, grasp concepts and learn in a different way because now I get it. And I thought, just like you did, like you thought you had a learning disability. Um, my parents suspected I was dyslexic for a very, very, very long time. But there was no help for that, right? It just is a label, and there was no help. And it just makes sense now that no, I wasn't dyslexic. I was reading 3 times as fast as my brain could actually keep up with. And so, of course, I'm
Mm.
missing comprehension. Of course, I'm missing context. Of course, I only see every other line. I blow through a book super fast. I'd still read the same line over and over again, but I also just kind of like grab the whole paragraphs at a time and not integrate, if that makes sense. And so, yeah, I blow through books too fast. And so that affected
Okay.
my comprehension later, because I wasn't getting everything. I was just, blowing through them, which I was proud of, which, and that's fine. That's fine. I didn't know that I was doing myself a disservice by blowing through them. I just thought I was a really fast reader. And then also what I see a lot, and I think you'll agree, is the amount of neurodiverse kids in gifted and talented programs is like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
astronomical. Astronomical. Chances are, if you're in gifted and talented, you are neurodiverse in some way and teetering on burnout, probably. Is that been your experience as well? Because I definitely was in the programs.
Well, I wasn't in any gifted programs. However, I did have to write entrance exams in order to go to private schools. And I've had conversations with people after I've graduated from high school that have said, well, Ardyth, it's really hard to compare yourself to individuals who have to pass entrance exams in order to go to private schools. Probably you were with the cream of the crop. Like I was with some students who would read a 400-page book in one night and then be able to give an incredible speech on it and get like an A+. So yeah, I studied with people who had speed writing skills. I found out, and now this is something I'm still struggling to grasp. However, I need to give myself more credit because of how I did with the feature writing in university. I found out from my educational psychologist that I'm gifted in my writing skills. And I love to write.
And you thought they were
And
crap.
I've always loved to write.
That's awesome.
Well, maybe I'm not the greatest at writing linear essays, but feature writing is definitely something that I do love. And so my educational psychologist said, you talk about wanting to write a book just on your own, do it. I think might be something you're called to do based on how your brain works. And that's pretty awesome to hear. My husband was considered gifted in schooling. And I found out that my son, who has ADHD, is gifted in his visual and spatial skills, which leads me to another point. I am currently reading a book by Temple Grandin called Visual Thinking. I can't remember the rest of it, but all you need to do is look up Visual Thinking by Temple Grandin and you'll find the book. And what's fascinating about this book is just like what you're talking about, the giftedness. She talks about that. She talks about how individuals who are strong visual thinkers and spatial thinkers, a lot of engineers are like that. She talks about the visual thinking and the object thinking, and talks about the differences between the two. Have you read this book by any chance before I just start going
I
on about this
haven't, but
book?
no,
Okay.
I haven't, but it makes sense to me. Everything you're saying, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, please.
And so I have known early on that both of my kids gravitate towards activities that involve science, technology, engineering, math, and art. So now we say STEAM. And so when I'm reading this book, I'm just like, oh my goodness, this explains why I've chosen to do this as a mother and why I've chosen to do this. And it was way before I was even thinking about ADHD and neurodiversity and all the other neurodivergences that are there. I think what's just so fascinating is learning about the overlap between autism and ADHD and the positive aspects with how neurodiverse individuals' brains learn, and then being able to take the information that Temple Grandin has spent years researching. I mean, like she has a whole school, like a private school for neurodiverse individuals, and so she knows that how individuals learn who are neurodiverse. And so I've been so grateful to find this book and to be able to read it, and then to be able to apply the learning within my own family. And then I'm noticing as an elementary teacher, I love, as a substitute teacher, I love being able to accept the calls to go and help out as a special education teacher. I love being able to see the individuals that have exceptional needs and being able to see what they thrive at, even if they're not able to vocalize what it is that they're doing. It's just, and I mean, Temple Grandin talks about that too. Like, do you know the story behind Temple Grandin?
Yeah, absolutely. What was that movie a few years ago? Grey Gardens, I think was the name of the movie. It was about her and her life story and being autistic and her fight. Yeah.
I think the movie was actually called Temple Grandin.
I don't know. I think
I'm pretty sure it was.
Maybe not. Maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Grey Gardens wasn't that? I had watched that movie though.
Well,
But what's
now I'm
just so
curious.
fascinating? Yeah, you go ahead and look. What's just so fascinating about Temple Grandin with not being able to speak, and her mother not accepting what the doctor said about her, not believing that she was the way she was because she was not being treated with love the way that the doctor said was why she wasn't speaking. Because the mother, like, I mean, the mother was there because she cared about Temple so much. And to hear that, fortunately, the Temple Grandin's mother had enough confidence to speak up for herself and advocate for herself and to say, I'm going to go and get another opinion. Thank you very much. I love my daughter so much, and that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm going to do everything I can possibly can to be able to give her the help. And I just got like goosebumps thinking about this, because had her mother not done that, she would not have been able to to go all the way through school and have a PhD, and then to be able to advocate for all these individuals around the world about autism and neurodiversity in general, and be able to just empower so many parents and kids. And I think also what I absolutely love about this book is that she talks about how important it is for parents to not get caught up in the bubble that because they are raising a neurodivergent child, that they should only be with parents who are raising neurodiverse children, because the world needs to see that it's, that they can learn from that, and the parents who have neurodiverse individuals can also learn by being around parents who have neurotypical children.
Yeah, absolutely. You were right. It is Temple Grandin, the movie. Grey Gardens was also nominated for an Oscar that year. That's why that's stuck in my head. I mean, the
Okay.
connections, right? There it is. So you were absolutely right. My bad. Grey
That's
Gardens
all
was
right.
another movie that year that was critically acclaimed. Gosh, that's just, how my brain works sometimes, friends. It doesn't remember the actual memory. It remembers memory adjacent. Yeah, whatever.
But
Memory
you know what
adjacent.
is kind of interesting? The fact that you mentioned about Grey Gardens in that movie, one of the characters, like she is going through some major depression, right?
Maybe that's why. Maybe, yeah. Yes, there was something that was like neurodivergent in that movie that's sticking in my head. Also, it was 2010, so 14 years, y'all. Give me
Okay.
some grace. But
Well, in
yeah,
the
yeah. I think so. Yeah, it was Nicole
well in
Kidman.
the
Right?
comorbidity of anxiety and depression is so common for individuals with ADHD.
Yes.
So maybe that's why your brain
Speaking,
went there.
yeah. Oh God, absolutely. Because comorbidity between depression and anxiety. Um, there is some not so spurious comorbidities with manic depression too. Strangely,
Yes.
which is also considered
Yes.
neurodiverse. And that was my brother. He had manic depression as well as
Mm.
ADHD hyperactive. Um, I was going to say something about, oh, speaking of comorbidities,
Mhm.
there is this
Mhm.
woman on TikTok. And if you guys haven't followed her, go follow her. Her name's Kimberly, and then there's a bunch of numbers after it. However, she herself is autistic, and her daughter was nonverbal autistic. And in trying to help her daughter, she started researching into autism. And because she's got this beautiful brain in this powerful, really powerful pattern recognition that comes along with it, she has been able to map out the whole neurotransmitter pathway for people with autism, for people with ADHD, for people with a TBI, for people with autoimmune, for people with manic depressive. And she follows the neurotransmitters all over and has been able to map it out. This is just a mom in the middle of America with no PhD, with no, I think she graduated high school. And she's just a mom that was trying to help her daughter, which reminded me of Temple Grandin because she didn't stop. And so now that she knows about these pathways, she's able to give her daughter supplements that now has promoted her daughter is able to speak and communicate.
Oh,
And so now she's trying to get it into a peer reviewed, she's trying to get it peer reviewed. She's trying to get it to a PhD because she knows it's right, but she needs somebody to validate and confirm it that have the credentials because she's just a mom, right? And so she's
right.
fighting for that. So go find her on TikTok. If any of this interests you, go find her on TikTok. She is doing some bang up work. And it just fascinates me how she follows all kinds of like the BH4 pathway and how it upregulates this and downregulates this in autism and it upregulates this and downregulates this in ADHD. And if you're ADHD, then that's a whole other thing. It's just, it's wild. I'll send you her TikTok. I'll send you her TikTok on TikTok because I
I
think
love that.
you'll love it. You'll absolutely love it. Talk about,
Well,
talk about, go ahead.
well, it's so interesting when you talk about the autoimmune part, okay? Because when I first started coaching women, it seemed that I gravitated towards the moms because moms get moms. And through the process of coaching these moms, I had some clients who not only started questioning if they had ADHD, and then based on what they knew about ADHD, thought that I might have ADHD, but in terms of the autoimmune part, I have known for 12 years that I have a thyroid condition. I have what's called hyperthyroidism Graves' disease. And so, in order to, how we had to coach a number of individuals in order to be able to graduate as a certified health and life coach, Stacy? Well, I
Uh-huh.
first started out coaching moms with autoimmune disease. Now I know that it's very common for individuals with ADHD to also have thyroid conditions.
My
It's
mom has
also
Hashimoto's. That checks out.
okay.
That checks out. Not me,
Yep.
but she does. Yeah, that checks out. That's crazy. That's wild.
Yeah,
That
I've
is
been following some of the Attitude magazine um, articles. I also participated in one of the seminars recently to help women understand their hormones. Like you talked about the perimenopause part, that like the different stages that women go through hormonally tend to be those stages where they start to question if they potentially have ADHD. And then it mentioned in the seminar that women with thyroid issues, it's very common that both of it is there. Yep. And I've also
interesting. I
heard that
wonder.
some that is very common for doctors to check out if their patients have thyroid issues before they consider them potentially having ADHD.
Interesting. Yeah, it would be out of the scope of their practice. They wouldn't know. I'm sure, and
Yeah.
they don't have. Yeah, yeah.
And
Fascinating.
before I considered myself having ADHD, I actually really connected with my son's brain based on what my brain was doing because of the challenges that I've had with the hyper side of my thyroid, like that,
Interesting.
like really trying to find foods that enabled me to feel calm enough to be able to think clearly, um, eat foods that are low in the glycemic index. I learned so much by seeing naturopathic doctors and functional medical practitioners, to help being able to think clearly and focus and feel calmer. And yeah, so it's yeah, I just feel like so many dots are connecting.
So many dots. So many dots. Oh, it's wild. It's really wild. Talk about talk about the not so great side of this. We do have beautiful brains. We have powerful, strong visual pattern recognition. Um, and I'm sure you do. I have a really sensitive BS meter. So if somebody is telling me a story, I'm like, that ain't checking out, buddy. I think again, it's pattern recognition of what I know the person already or whatever, right? Um, but so we have beautiful brains, but there is a downside to being neurodiverse. And especially, I know that nothing triggers it like being a mom. Like being a mom. Talk about the not so great side for you of having this brain that works this way.
Okay. All my life, I've been told I'm so sensitive. I'm too sensitive. I've experienced it in my family, and I've experienced it with friends. I've experienced it, especially dating. I was told I was very emotional, and that maybe I was too emotional for certain people. Like you mentioned, the intensity. I've been told that I have a nervous energy and that I'm very intense. Um, I have noticed since my 20s that hormonally, when it comes to PMS, that I really struggle emotionally. Um, I've been on a journey for a long time to find what works for me hormonally, with being able to balance out how I feel when I'm right before I get my period. And before I found out that I have inattentive ADHD, I had to be strong enough and go to my family doctor and say, I need some mental health help here. I I have suicide ideation. So it's very possible that I struggle with PMDD. Don't have any diagnosis for that. However, I just know that my life can feel wonderful and seem wonderful to me, and I'm able to uplift myself if I'm feeling a little bit down. But then right before my period, I really, really struggle with being calm. I really, really struggle to go to work. I really, really struggle to be around kids and to have the patience to listen to them. I find myself more likely to yell at my kids. I have to go back after I've done that and explain that I'm really struggling right now to live. I'm really struggling to be around myself, and it's been really challenging for my husband. I'm so grateful. Oh, it's gonna make me cry. I'm so grateful that I have a husband that's so compassionate, because I don't know many men that would want to be around somebody who goes through what I go through every month.
Every month.
I
Every month.
now have I now have anti-anxiety and anti-depression medication, and I find that's when I need it the most. And I've just, out of all the times and money that I spent going to see naturopathic doctors when I was struggling with this, and trying to eat certain foods to help out with this, have to say it hasn't been the holistic stuff. It's been the Western prescribed medication, and I've been so grateful that I've come across this podcast called Unplugged. I think it's Unplugged Health for Women, and it just has shown me that listening to female doctors and female naturopaths talk about that sometimes women need to give themselves grace, and and just focus on being kinder to themselves and allow themselves to say it's okay if we can't solve everything holistically. It's okay if we can't solve everything naturally. Sometimes it's a balance between being able to do things holistically and being able to do things with Western medicine. I mean, like, I have had people in my life that have been really wanting me to not be on thyroid medication, because they have believed that it would be the best thing for me because they love and they care for me. And then I have had a naturopath. I had a naturopathic doctor at the time who noticed from my blood work. Like, she cared so much. She called me and she said, "Ardyth, how are you doing?" And I was embarrassed, because I was trying to be strong enough to to not have to be on the medication. But she looked at my blood work and she said, "Ardyth, I'm nervous for you. Please tell me how you're doing." I said, "I'm feeling shaky again. I'm having problems sleeping." And she said, "I really want you to get back on your medication soon, because I'm afraid that you're heading down a pathway where you could have heart trouble and you could end up in the hospital. And I really don't want that for you. And I know that you're focusing on being a mother during mat leave and doing everything that you possibly can for your son." She said, "Please get back on your medication." And I was so grateful that she did that for me.
Yeah. My gosh, that is, we need more healthcare practitioners in the world like that versus the turn and burn. And it's not their fault. Like, I get it, especially in the US healthcare system. It's it's wild over here. It is wild over here. So I understand doctors are pressed to spend literally 10 minutes in the room and then be gone. I get it,
Yes.
but it is
Yes.
really doing us a disservice. I last year, actually in 2022, I went to my GYN because my hair was falling out by the clumps. And I was a total brain fog, no energy, napping all the time. And he pulled my blood. and my estradiol was not detectable at all. And he said, "Oh, this is just normal. You're still having periods. Go about your day." And I was like, that cannot be it. That can't be it, buddy. Like, that cannot be the answer and then move along. I am suffering. I am suffering. And so then I started doing my own research into holistic stuff. And I got on some black cohosh, got on some wild yam cream, taken some vitamin E and some other things. And guess what? I've got little hairs now. I've got little hairs now.
Yay.
And I know, so excited because I lost half my hair. And guess
Wow.
what? The hair loss has stopped. And so it was hormonal. And I just wanted to go back and shake him and be like, you are a gynecologist. I realize you're a identified male gynecologist. Like, I get that, but don't dismiss your clientele. Like, think beyond your education. And he was like, well, as long as your progesterone's there and you're having periods, you're good to go. And I was like, that is so not true. So yeah, I'm so glad that you had somebody to advocate for you, because I see it a lot. And I think you'll probably agree with me, is with this condition, I know intuitively some things, like I just know. And then when I take it to somebody that is more educated than I, a doctor, or, somebody that has a master's or PhD in the field, and they tell me I'm not correct, I usually defer to them because they've got the education. This is their purview. What do I know? And in the end, I should have listened to my inner knowing about what was going on, because it was better than, or it was more accurate, or whatever you want to say, than what the educated person told me. And that's no fault of their own. It's me handing my power over to somebody else, thinking that somebody else knows better than I do because, of some faulty wiring in me. And it's just that, again, going back to what you said in the beginning, of neurodiverse people are extremely hard on themselves. Extremely hard on themselves.
Yeah.
I am my absolute own worst enemy. And this is after being in a healing journey for almost 10 years. I'm still pretty gnarly on myself. I've been able to curtail a lot of it, thank God. Like, Clarity Catalyst was the beginning for me of really stopping that negative self-talk. And that's why now that's what I help women with, is the negative self-talk, because been there, done that, got the t-shirt, got the banner. I'm like the poster child for negative self-talk, because, and now I know it's the neurodiversity that makes it so bad. Yeah. Again, having that validation of like, oh, it's not just me being a jerk to myself. Like, there's a reason I'm a huge jerk to myself. Got it. Okay. It just makes it easier to manage. And I really want to share some empathy with you, what you were saying about PMDD and that week right before my period as well. I am awful to be around. I am awful to be around my poor kids, because I snap at them at the drop of a hat. I am so much on sensory overload that last week right before. It's really hard to life. It's really hard to life. Because anything just sends me over the edge, and it's not fair. It's not fair to my family. It's not fair to myself. But yeah, it's something I've noticed in all the deep breathing in the world and the relaxation techniques that I know and I do employ, sometimes are just not enough.
Yeah.
It's just not enough.
And Stacey, don't you think it is so important for women and moms to know that when they are going through that they're not the only ones that are going through that, to know that there are other women that are going through that? I mean,
Yeah.
there are times where I've thought, why do I feel like I'm crazy? Why do I not want to be around people? Why do I want to have like a women cave? Why do I struggle to be around the people in my life that I live with, that I love, that I can be my authentic self with all the time, and they truly accept me, and they embrace me with the absolute love that I need and want, and I do the same for them. Why do I struggle so much? And I have just been so grateful to know that this is common, and that
Yeah.
I'm not crazy, and that I'm not alone. It's been so wonderful. Like, just wonderful, even just hearing you talk about your struggles, because then we don't feel like we're struggling anymore, right? Then we can reach out, or, you
Right.
know, yeah, it's
It's
yeah.
it's
But
kind of like getting the diagnosis. It's that validation, right? It's that
yeah, yeah,
validation again of like being seen and having, oh, I'm not crazy. Something's going on. And it's that validation again of like, oh, I'm not the only one. Because you do. We all think. We all think we are the only ones. We all think.
exactly.
But
Especially
in a
when we're
planet of,
going through it,
oh,
right?
yeah.
Especially when we're
But it,
going through it, because we have problems seeing the good in life. We have problems seeing the good in
yeah.
ourselves. But one thing I want to share, and I want to make sure that everyone hears this, is something that has been absolutely life changing for myself. And maybe this is a story that's going to inspire somebody. When I was studying to be certified as a clarity catalyst coach in emotional intelligence and mindfulness, I was also experiencing going to see a doctor that specialized in radiating thyroids. And no, I might have got the timeline wrong. Anyways, doesn't matter. All I remember is that because I didn't feel that what he was saying was what I wanted to do to my body, because he told me that I wouldn't be able, like at the time. So I must not have been doing clarity cows, because I remember at the time I was still holding my youngest son a lot. Like, he was at that stage of his life where he needed that, he wanted that. And this doctor told me, you're not going to be able to hold your baby or your other child for 3 weeks after
Oh,
having this radiation. And I fortunately was part of a Facebook group for individuals with Graves' disease. And I had seen over time that the individuals that were going through the thyroid radiation um, sometimes experienced issues with their voice. And do you remember when we were studying Clarity Catalyst, that we connected with a Disney, like we are sometimes some sort of cartoon character? I think it was Disney that we was really talked about. Well, I really connected with
I think so.
Ariel in Little Mermaid. And the reason why I connected with Ariel is because she's somebody that has to make the choice between giving up her voice to be able to experience living with legs and being able to live on land. And I didn't want to potentially not be able to sing, because would go through
Oh,
this radiation. So I went down. I thought there was just something, how like sometimes there's something almost like screaming inside of you that you have to let out.
sure.
I said to this doctor, I have decided that I am not going to have my thyroid radiated, because I didn't even get into why. And you know what I experienced, Stacey? I experienced that he wasn't that taken aback. He wasn't offended. he was just like, okay, well, that's how I'd be helping you out. Your thyroid may continue to destroy, your body may continue to destroy your thyroid little by little. And that's why I was suggesting the radiation to get it over with. But I was like, well, if it's going to happen anyways, why am I going to rush it if it's something that could potentially ruin my voice? And so, yeah, it's like as soon as I said no to that, there's like this huge weight lifted off of my shoulders. I went and saw a naturopathic doctor locally, and I was able to find things that that really, really helped me out. She noticed over time that it was almost like my thyroid issues had gone into remission. And she actually said to me, Ardyth, I think you have become a real health manager for your own body. I don't see any reason for us to have a follow-up session. And
Wow.
so, yeah, I stopped seeing her after that. Yeah. And when remember talking about being a choir nerd? When I was in university, I was studying public relations and a lot of business courses. I missed singing so much that I decided as one of my electives to apply to an opera course. And
Oh my
because
gosh.
I did that, I have now sang for almost all of my friends' weddings, solos, a cappella, with accompaniment. All throughout the pandemic, singing is what got me through as a way of regulating my body with
Sure. It
fears,
stimulates that vagus
with
nerve.
energy. Right? Yeah, exactly. And I think maybe we had learned that somewhere along the way, but yeah, so yeah, it's just I'm just so grateful that for the level of intuition that I believe that a lot of neurodiverse individuals have. And when they stop being so hard on themselves and they listen to it, they can do incredible things for their bodies and their health overall, mentally and physically.
And advocate for themselves. Advocate for
Yes, yes,
themselves, which is
yes,
exactly what
yes,
you did. You were like, listen, if the choices are I don't sing again and I don't hold my kids for 3 weeks, then it's that price is too high. That price is too high.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I think a lot of the population, neurodiverse or neurotypical, would have just deferred to the doctor, like I was talking about earlier, of like, oh, you've got more education, you know better than me. It doesn't matter what my intuition is saying and what I know to be true about my own body. You know better than me. So okay, I radiate my thyroid and now look at you. You didn't do it because the price was too high. And now even your functional medicine or naturopath, whichever one, was like, I don't need to see you anymore. You're good. That would have never happened if you had irradiated yourself. That would have never happened. It's crazy what you just know innately. And then we just brush off. We just brush off for a million reasons.
yeah,
And yet that intuition is so strong. So strong. Um,
yeah. Go ahead.
what do you talk about how you help people now? Talk about, what a coaching course looks like with you, or a program, or working with you, and what you intend to do now that you're back in school again. Talk about life, moving forward.
Well, as a coach, I am trained to take people through a 90-day program. So that's a 12-session program. Each session is about 45 minutes to 60 minutes long. Um, I have had a lot of positive impact on moms who have gone through this 90-day program to help them to have more energy. Um, First, starting off focusing a little bit on food, and then deciding that it was too exhausting to focus on food. And so they've learned strategies to help themselves have more energy and to thrive and to start dreaming again. I also am trained as a an emotional intelligence and mindfulness coach. And so I have an 8-week program that helps out individuals to worry less, have less anxious feelings, to be able to sleep better, to be able to make decisions, to be able to trust their intuitions, and just learn the power of creativity and how it applies to so many things in day-to-day life. Um, and then I also offer one-on-one sessions to individuals who just maybe are trying to figure out if what is it like to work with a coach, and maybe can't necessarily afford a full-on program, or they're not ready for that yet. And and then I create a lot of content.
You
I
do.
create
I
content
love
on
your content.
oh, thank you, thank you.
You are always creating. It's inspirational and aspirational. So I thank you for putting a fire under my ass. I appreciate it, because I'm like, damn it, there's Ardyth
Oh, wow.
again. I got to move. I got to get some. It's like, in a good way. I'm like, man, if she could create content, what am I doing? Like, move forward, Stacey. Come on. So yes, you do put out a lot of content, and I love it. So tell the people about your content.
Thank you. Well, I create content in a way from primary research, so active research of what I've experienced in life that has helped out my kids, what I've learned from being a teacher firsthand. Secondary research, I read a lot. I read a lot of articles. I watch a lot of videos. I take the time to look at multiple sources to decide, is this something that I want to put into my belief system and to share. I also run a private Facebook group for moms. It's called The Authentic Mom. It's specifically for moms who have ADHD, think they may have ADHD, and are raising kids with ADHD, or and other neurodivergences, because it's so common for me to meet moms who are raising kids who, yes, have ADHD, but then I'll also learn they have other neurodivergences like OCD, ODD, autism, one of any of the neurodivergences that fall under neurodiversity. And I also have a business account, Instagram account called Ardyth Correia Coaching. I have a Facebook business page called Ardyth Correia Coaching. And so yeah, those are some of the ways to follow me if if I've shared anything that's piqued your interest, and you want to get to know more of what I know. But you know what,
You
Stacey, I have to
guys,
say that you create a lot of awesome content too, and I hope you know that.
thank you. You're about to be blown away, because I'm telling you, you lit a fire under my ass. So there's a lot of content coming, whether it's here or on the other platforms. I'm done messing around, done playing small. I decided. So I don't know if you guys do, like, instead of a New Year's resolution, I just do a word for the year, and I've decided that this year my word is mine. Mine.
Hmm.
I'm going to claim it. Not inspirational or perseverance or resilience or any of those. No, it's mine. It's mine. That's my word.
Awesome.
Mine. So I'm claiming things as mine, and I'm going to make them mine, and it's going to be for me. And yeah, it's something that I've never done before. So we'll see how long this lasts before the people
Awesome.
pleaser kicks in and goes, eek! What are we doing? This feels scary. Oh, it's the constant battle. It's the constant battle. You guys, I know Ardyth better than I know most of my guests, and you would be in great company and well taken care of to be a coaching client of hers. So go find her. All of her information will be down below in the description. You guys already know. Please do all of the YouTube-y things, like, subscribe, hit the bell, comment, whatever you do. It's all free. It's all free. It costs you, it's free 99 for you, and it means the world to me. And yeah, so thank you so much, Ardyth, for coming and having this amazing conversation. I want you to come back and do a part 2 because I think we just scratched the surface. I definitely want to talk about the mental load of motherhood and how neurodiversity can wreak havoc in that, and also, conversely, be amazing in the mental load of motherhood. So I think that that's what we're going to do for our next session. So we will definitely revisit each other and do another video about that and talking about the mental load of motherhood. And if you guys don't know what the mental load of motherhood is, because it's a conversation that needs to happen a lot more, it is the mental load that we carry that taxes us and drains our energy. So things like, oh, I need to flip the bed. I need to vacuum under the couch. Oh, the dog needs to go to the vet. Oh, it's time for haircuts with the kids. It's more expanded than the day-to-day stuff, than minutia that we have to carry in addition to the longer term stuff like what I was just explaining. So it is exhausting. It is taxing. It breaks women down. And I want to talk about it. So let's talk about that in the frame of neurodiversity next time. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining me, everybody. I just want to remind you, it literally takes a few short minutes a day to physically rewire your brain. And I hope that you take me up on that offer, and also go find Ardyth, because she is absolutely amazing. So I love you. Thank you for being here. Ardyth, thank you so much. And I will catch you guys next time. Cheers.